Get your chair back on. We're going to start tonight's meeting, the Board of Selectmen meeting. It's a regular meeting. It's scheduled for February 17th at 6:30 p.m. I'm Bob Carlson, the first selectman. We also have Selectwoman Nicole Porter and Selectman John Gassion. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll start with public comment on non-agenda items. So if you'd like to speak about something that, yes. What? Sure.
Only on non-agenda items, and will it be the opportunity when another item is presented?
How many meetings have you been how many meetings have you been to that I've run, Bill? You get before, during, and after. So typically we like to do public comment before on non-agenda items. And even though Vilma's going to talk about something that sounds like an agenda item, it really isn't. Then you can talk about when I bring something up, like let's say the conservation easement. I'll give you time to speak at that point if that's what you want to speak about. And then at the end, if you still have something else to say, you can be at the public comment at the end. And it'll be just the three of us and you will still be here. Okay? Perfect. Thank you, Bill. So is there any public comment on non-agenda items? Vilma? So, sure, just hit that mic on. Hit the bottom button, the one that looks like it's smiling at you.
Is this working? Okay. Hi, Vilma Gregoropoulos from the Historical Society. I just wanted to announce that on June 27th at 11, we are going to start a day of festivities, which will have parade, muster, and colonial fair. We have a bunch of fife and drum corps lined up and reenactors, and we're going to have historic costumes you can try on, and we're going to read the Declaration of Independence and, have a great time. And I just want to let everyone know about it. You can read more about it on our website, which is northstoningtonhistorical.org.
Okay, hang on, because this is a question.
Okay.
So we got it. You have a copy of this. I gave it to you through correspondence. Sounds like it's a wonderful event. We're going to meet with Emergency Services and Historic Society probably a month or so before the event to make sure we have everything covered that you need.
Yep.
I know you're going to march from down Main Street near the monuments down to your property.
Yep.
And your event's going from roughly from 11 to 4-ish. Or
yeah, and we'll be starting to pick up at 4, so it'll fade out.
It sounds like a wonderful event, and it's nice that and the reason why you say, well, why is she speaking? It's on the agenda. No,
it's not.
That's the other 250, America 250. There's two things going on that day. They're kind of not quite simultaneously, but they're going to go on that day. And you'll hear about the other one later because that is on the agenda. But thank you so much.
Yeah, and just to say, I've talked to these ladies, and we'll cooperate in any way we can to make it a nice day of festivities, whatever happens.
Perfect. Any questions at all for Velma, John, Nicole? No? Good. Thank you. And best luck. And we'll obviously keep us engaged.
Yep.
If you want to come again to another Board of Selectmen meeting, I will put you on the agenda. We can get more involved in exactly what's going to happen.
Sure.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment on non-agenda items? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve February 3rd's minutes as written.
I'll second.
Great. Is there any discussion?
No.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. 3-0. Before I have selectmen comment, there's two things I want to work on, do the agenda this evening. One is I want to move number 11, vacancies and appointments, up to number, we'll call it 6A, 6.5, somewhere between 6 and 7. Chris was here. He was going to be appointed tonight. He might get back in time. He just had to go leave because there's a fire. He's a fireman.
Oh, I just heard that.
And so if he gets back, that's great. And if he comes back later and we already discussed it, I'll introduce him to you if you don't know who he is. And the second thing is I want to add, since this is a regular meeting, I can add to the agenda. I want to add a short discussion on the Hewitt Farm Hayfield agreement. And we'll add that to, we'll do that after the budget discussion. So it'll be after, we'll go where 11 was. How's that? Okay. Now I need to, our motion, we're going to add that. So I'll look for a second.
Yep, I'll second that.
Those in favor of adding that, Hewitt Farm Hayfield, say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of moving up from number 11 up to number 6A, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so those are both passed. Thank you. Selectmen comments. Is there anything that either of you would like to mention?
Yeah, I'd like to mention, I had sent out an email after the public hearing. As you know, we had it in the gymatorium over there. We moved our equipment over. It's kind of a little struggle getting the Zoom up and making sure everybody could hear us online. We could hear their comments. I want to thank Greg Cormier for that work he did. He stayed with us for about approximately an hour online, FaceTiming, working all through the issues. So we made that a success. I let the Christine Wagner and Troy Hopkins know how much we appreciated his help during that time. He helped me and Carl out tremendously to get that going.
Yeah, as it is, that venue, when the IT was working, is a perfect venue for that type of a situation. When we have around that number of people, and with so much basketball going on now, it would be tough to get the gymatorium. So it's a perfect room for us, and I'm glad that went well. We might be using that room again in April, because I think right now, tentatively, there's a possibility of a Vietnam veteran celebration. And I'm working with Lieutenant Governor Bysowitz on that now, and that could be happening on April 20th, I believe. I'll confirm the date with you later, but I've asked Troy already for that room, and he said we could use it. So, all right, thank you. Anything else, Nicole? Anything from you? Okay. I've got quite a bit, actually. So, first selectman report and correspondence. First, we'll start with, we approved at the last meeting, taking the Starlight Lane piece of property to the planning and zoning for an 8-24 review. I just want to let you know that I did that. I presented it, and it failed. It failed 3-2. So that property right now is not going to be moved on. That is, unless I get contacted by someone, that to me that is a dead issue. It's off my desk for now. If the person who is interested originally reaches out, I will talk to the town attorney. But even if the town attorney says that we could override planning and zoning, if I was an attorney and I was on the other side, I would just get up at a town meeting and say, so the planning and zoning division, planning and zoning commission said no. And now you and this town meeting are going to override the people you voted out for to make those decisions. And I think it'd be a hard time to pass that once it's been denied by 8-24. I mean, I'd be high pressed to go against the commission that we voted on to make those decisions. So I'm pretty sure right now it's not going to happen. That issue. I know he's reached out to me to say what's our next step. So, and so, go ahead.
Did you attend? No. So what was the rationale?
There's points both for and against. Keeping the rationale to keep it not be sold is open space. One of the neighbors in particular had been there for a number of years, and her children grew up playing on the property, and just didn't want to turn more open space into non-open space. Even though the gentleman that did want to buy it, and there's no assurances he would be the one that bought it. Anybody could buy it, but he was going to put a small buffer around it, maybe put a pool and a pool house on it. But I think the open space piece, turning too many pieces of property not into open space, or making them private so anyone can go on them. My only fear is we had a situation in Kingswood last year where a tree fell off town property and hit a vehicle, and we had our insurance company had to make good on it. There are dead trees on this property, so God forbid one falls and hits somebody's property. But that was probably my biggest reason. Other than that. So it didn't can't win them all. Didn't pass, and we'll move on to something else. But yeah, I'm sure the homeowner was not happy. But that's why we're a democracy, right? That's why we have boards and commissions. So, all right. So I just want to let you know that failed at this point. Did you want to make comment on that? Or are you good, Sean? No, Sean. Did you want to make some comment on that, since you were the one that there was a pro and the against?
Yeah, I just, is it?
I think
seem
you're
like
on.
It's on.
I think you are.
Okay. I don't think we need to spend money on an attorney on this. By that statute, a town meeting can override it. Obviously, I don't want it to go past, any further because I spoke against it. The vote was 3-2 the other night. The one person expressed desire one of the commission members talked about the plan of conservation and development as a reason not, and trying to retain open space as the reason not to move forward with it. Another one of the commission members mentioned about how it might set a precedent for other town-owned properties to have applications come forward, for the same type of thing. Not that they would be approved, obviously, but that's what went down at the meeting the other night. I have my comments I would share with you if you're interested. I have them written on a piece of paper. If you do you want those, or are you done with this for?
No, I'll just get the tape.
Yeah.
There's no tape.
That's the problem.
Mm.
Yeah.
They didn't.
You have
Did you
them
tape yours,
handy.
Susan?
She doesn't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless Cheryl did. Did Cheryl?
Cheryl normally audio tapes it,
Okay, then.
not video. You can request the audio from Cheryl though, so I'll request that and listen
Okay.
to it. Thank you, Sean.
If,
Okay.
if we have the tapes, then I'm
Yep.
fine. Thanks,
Good.
Sean.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for the opportunity.
Not a problem. Okay, you also had a sheet I gave you. It's talking about a public information hearing. It's going to be a Zoom meeting. We're going to post it on the town website and social media pages tomorrow. It's the state DOT talking about a project they're going to be doing on Route 216. They have a public hearing on Thursday, yet the project's not happening until 2029.
Is this the bridge?
It's over near, it's right near the truck stop, 216 truck stop, between between the exit and coming up the hill a little bit towards Boom Bridge.
So I put on my calendar Town Bridge virtual meeting at 6:00. Do
That's
you
the
know?
one. Yeah, that's the one.
That is it. Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
So it's a culvert underneath the road, but they have to close the road for a
Okay.
while. Again, we're going to post it to make sure people know about it. Excuse me. And advertise the link to it. Again, it's not happening to 2029. So if one of you two, first selectman, you can deal with it. Guess I won't be. But anyway, so that's that. So I just want to bring it to your attention. We'll publicize it on tomorrow. And I already talked about the America 250 from the Historic Society. And you got an email today from one of our residents, Sarah Valancourt, who I do see in the room, and she had some definite comments to make as far as the America 250, and I'm sure she'll speak later about that. So, and that's what I have for correspondence. Well, since Chris isn't here and we moved it up, we'll wait. If he comes back, we'll just slip it back in. That's on I will say this, Gary Barron was he was our deputy EMD. A little history. He was our EMD for a number of years. Then he became the deputy EMD when Charlie Steinhardt, the fifth, became the EMD. They did it for 1 year with Gary as the EMD chief as second, and then they switched. And now Gary's got to the point where I think he's tired. He's ready to have somebody else younger move in. Charlie Steinhardt chief suggested Chris Case as that individual. Wonderful young man, if you know him. In fact, I think it was at a banquet last year, the year before. He was Fireman of the Year award. Young guy, graduated from Wheeler, and I know his mom's in the audience, so I'm going to say a lot of nice things about him. So, but he really is a great kid. I remember it seems like it was just a few weeks ago I was watching him play basketball on the Wheeler basketball team. He was a god, by the way, in case you wanted to know. But, so if he gets back, we'll fit him in just so we can recognize, the fact that we want to appoint him, as the deputy EMD, like I do. And, Gary gave us that nice letter of resignation. I can't thank Gary enough for all he did for this town. Amazing background. I think you were here, Nicole, when he marched and and we talked about his background when he was the head of the parade, Lions Club Day Parade, Memorial Day Parade one time, and he's an amazing guy, amazing background. So he's done so much, and you still can see his weather forecast on social media because he still does that. But he's not disappearing completely. Chief has asked him to be an advisor. So if there's a big event coming up, weather event or whatever kind of event, he'll be on the scene and help advise. So he's not completely disappearing. Okay, so we'll just address that again when Chris comes in.
And just to clarify, it's an appointed position?
Yes, so it's the EMD is Emergency Management Director, Deputy EMD.
Okay.
Okay, it's an appointed position, and then somewhere down the road, if Charlie or Chief Steinhardt decided he was going to retire from that position, then obviously Chris would be the next one in line to move up. So. All right, let's move on from that and see if he comes back. He was here. He ran out because the fire alarm went off and he had to go do that job. So thank him for that. EB property conservation easement discussion. All right, so once in a while we get these things on through email and my head spins like, what the heck is this? This is one of those things. So I asked Sue Cullen, our planner, if she would come explain this to us. Why the need that we have to fast track it a bit, why it has to go to a town meeting, and we have Attorney John Casey here also if we have any additional questions about this. And John, you're representing Electric Boat, right? So Sue, you want to start?
Sure.
Thank you.
So both the Planning Commission had a site plan for Electric Boat. And there was an approval, a regulatory approval that went on for the Electric Boat property. And it showed the conservation easement that was asked for at the Inland Wetland Agency, also a regulatory agency. After both of those approvals had already been completed and approved, our State Department of Energy and Environmental Protection came back and asked for additional land geographically that they thought was sensitive. It's adjacent to the land that we had required. So the best way for us to proceed is to go through a policy that was put into place in 2018 by Mr. Ricker's Commission, the Conservation Commission. Now, from a practical standpoint, even though Mr. Ricker's Commission is not a regulatory commission, they are charged, practically speaking, with the sort of, they have to check and inspect these easements, that something hasn't gone on within the conservation area, like someone hasn't built a shed or a pool. Not that I would think that they would do that in the case of Electric Boat, but in the case of a single family adjacent homeowner, those things do occasionally happen. So because their commission, practically speaking, keeps those records in our town clerk's vault, and they come back and check those easements every 5 years. And so they do them through you could ask him the specifics of how they do them, but I know, they occasionally walk them to Google Earth. They have different procedures for trying to make sure that the easement is still kept intact in the way it's worded. So because geographically, we've added to the easement because of the state DEP. We went back and told both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Inland Wetland Agency that what they had approved originally had been added on to in a larger sense. So then we also had given the wording to Mr. Ricker. Now, his commission has not met in the time since we got that wording back, but he was able to help troubleshoot a little bit to make sure that what they were sort of making sure that inspection wise, that was correct, that things were going correctly, and that he would be able to follow through on their side. So we've asked Mr. Casey, Attorney Casey, who's here for Electric Boat this evening, in case you have questions of him.
But what we need the Board of Selectmen to do is move this forward onto the town meeting. Because the town meeting is actually the legislative body for the town, they would have to accept the easement because it was larger than these regulatory agencies of ours locally had already required. So it's a little bit of an unusual arrangement because usually we get information back from those state agencies before we've made our approvals, but in this case, we didn't. So this is sort of the best way for us to close that legislative loop and make sure that this conservation restriction is put into place in perpetuity. They have given us in advance and to our attorney as well, all of the wording, and it's been reviewed, but Mr. Casey's also here just in case you have any questions or want to know anything, specific about the conservation easement. And I believe Mr. Ricker is here as well in case he has additional questions. One of the things that we do here in North Surrington that's a pretty typical thing is we mark our conservation boundaries with these markers. And, it's specifically spelled out in the plan and in the details so that something doesn't sort of accidentally happen and development bleeds over onto the conserved area. So they did, because Electric Boat is a secure facility, obviously, and there's fencing and security going on in that property. They were careful to make sure that they outlined permission to both the town and the state DEP to be able to make these inspections and checks with a reasonable, amount of notice. It states 48 hours in the document. So that's a pretty easy amount of notice to be able to observe. So we're just here this evening in case there are any questions. And we'd like you to move that to the town meeting so that that can be formally adopted by the town meeting, the legislative body of the town.
The March 2nd one.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there's any questions, definitely.
Yeah. Probably some for you and maybe some
Sure.
For you. So it sounds like the only thing that's being asked right now is that we need to move it to a town meeting
Mhm.
and have the town accept the additional acreage that is going into the conservation easement.
Exactly.
Okay. Couple of questions. One, I want to know from EB if this impacts your design and build for the area at all. And then I want to know what happens if it fails at the town meeting and for whatever reason, the town does not accept the additional acreage into the easement.
Good evening. For the record, my name is John Casey. I'm a partner with the law firm of Robinson and Cole. We represent Electric Boat in this matter. So the easement, as it's designed, will not impact the proposed development. It works in concert with it. There's language in there that specifically says, EB is going to develop this portion of the property, which is about 27 and a half acres will be the development part. And then a little bit more than that, 27.66 acres will be conserved. So what the Inland Wetlands Commission asked for was a 50-foot buffer as a conservation easement from the edge of the wetlands, that would be the conservation area. But then, as Susan said, the state, and it got a little backwards, but the state looked at it and found that there's habitat for state listed plants that they want to protect. And EB, and honestly, I wasn't particularly involved in this back and forth with the state, but when they came to me and said, we need an easement, they had already agreed, like, we're going to protect that land. There's nothing in that area around the river that we need to do. They just need to do the development as that's already been approved. And there are some stormwater features that'll be in there, but we specifically call out that anything that's already approved will be allowed to occur. And if it doesn't get approved, we might have to go back to the state. I thought, based on the fact that the Inland Wetlands Commission wanted an easement, that we were going to grant them an easement anyway as part of their approval. And so I thought it's just easier to tack on what the state wanted to what the town wanted. And the state is fine with that. They just want the ability to come in and inspect the area when they need to and have a say in invasive species management, other things like that. But if we don't get the town's approval, I assume we'll have to go see if the state would want to be the recipient of the easement itself. There's a number of more hurdles to grant the state an easement than to grant a town an easement, or perhaps that we grant the easement to a third-party conservation group like Avalonia or something like that. We just want to, we're just applying under the state statute for conservation easements, and the recipient of that can be the state, the town, or a nonprofit conservation group. So
Is the reason we have to go to a town meeting because it is an addition and it changed? I don't understand. Normally it would just go to P and Z, right?
It would normally just go to planning and zoning because it would be considered just a regulatory part of the permitting.
Yeah.
Because this was additionally added and it wasn't part of their regulatory scheme, it then falls under a policy that was put into place in 2018. And I think the reason, and maybe Mr. Rickard can actually speak to this better than I can, because I think he was the one who helped put this policy in play of they were trying to make sure that these easements got tracked and, practically speaking, got followed up on in the future, because in the past, anything that hadn't gone through, a normal sort of direct A to B scheme, I think was sort of getting lost somewhere along the way. So they set up this particular policy so that legislatively, the town meeting here in North Stonington would accept that into the scheme so that things made sure they got followed up on in the future. So it was sort of protective maintenance, I guess is what I would call it, that in the future that those things would get inspected, taken care of, and would fall back under, because interestingly enough, in this case, they'd never went to Conservation Commission, nor would they have to. But practically speaking, that's the commission that actually has to follow up with them in the future to make sure they're still in compliance. So gets a little complicated.
Okay. And can you just refresh my memory on EB's timeline, breaking ground, completion, and is this going to impact?
It shouldn't impact. I don't have those dates off the top of my head. I mean, I work on other things. It's always like yesterday. It was when they want things done. They have a lot of pressure to keep things moving. So, but I don't have the specifics.
The last thing I heard was breaking ground on March 16th. The Romanella building has been taken down. It was demolished by Sharenzia about 2 weeks ago. So that's no longer there. And I heard they're going to break ground. This is per Cheryl from the land use office on March 16th.
Okay.
I don't know what the build out is on that. So.
Okay. I'm good.
I'm all set.
No question, right? I guess I'm going to ask Mr. Ricker if he could, if Bill could. So Nicole asked an interesting question. I thought Attorney Casey had some great answers to the question. What happens if the town says no? Maybe you can be the devil's advocate and tell me, why would the town say no? Why would the town say no? If I'm asking you, Ed, acting as a devil's advocate, why would the town say no to this? You as the chairman of the commission. So.
Bill Ricker, 421A Wyassup Road. I'm speaking as chairman of the Conservation Commission. Historically, the conservation easements that were given by developers were simply accepted by the town. I am not privy to whether there was the requirement that it had to go to a town meeting, but when a particular conservation easement request came before us, and it was a half-mile long, 10 feet wide conservation easement, ridiculous for us to monitor for perpetuity. I went to a town meeting and asked that it be denied. It was denied by the town. So whether that's precedent or not, whether the town was required for all of the past conservation easements to be approved by the town, I'm uncertain of that. You'd have to check your ordinances to see. The conservation easement that is presented by EB, I reviewed, albeit late, the application that was presented and had several questions that Dr. Cullen was able to clear up with the attorney. One of them being whether the grantee, being the town of North Stonington, could have the Conservation Commission go in and monitor the property every 5 years, which is our required activity. In one place, it indicated that the public was not allowed. The other indicated that they were allowed, and they were able to clear that up. We were most concerned with the fact that they would use pesticides and herbicides in the property, particularly herbicides for invasive species. And the Chinook River runs right through that property, north to south, on the western side. And it was of particular concern to the Conservation Commission that any herbicides not infiltrate into the Chinook River. I've been assured by being in contact with DEP that the herbicides recommended by EB that I just read today would be appropriate and allowable by Connecticut DEP. I say parenthetically that one of them is not allowed in anywhere near a waterway in Massachusetts, but we live here and it is allowed. In short, that referred to ordinance in 2018 was the inland wetlands, our attorney, conservation, all were to review the material of any application and give to the Board of Selectmen their recommendation. Obviously, inland wetland is regulatory and conservation is simply a recommending body, but we are recommending that this be an accepted conservation easement. Not only does it attach to the Chinook River, but it's a significant parcel, 25 acres, and we are through the POCD, if you will remember, we're attempting to create both the eastern, central, and western wildlife corridor, and this being in the middle, the middle section of our wildlife corridor would add significantly to that movement of animals. So both with the fact that it is of significant size, 25 acres, 27 acres, that it be adjacent to the Chinook River, that it also meet with other significant conservation parcels in the nearby vicinity, that we would recommend to you and would state such at the town meeting that we support the application.
Bill, are you satisfied with the answer you received on, I know every 5 years you look at conservation easements and you go and you monitor them. Were you satisfied with the plan, or will you be coming up with a plan on how you will get on that property to do the monitoring of this particular easement?
This actually is why we kicked off that ordinance back in 2018, because the town was required at that time to monitor every conservation easement yearly, and in some cases twice a year, winter and summer. It was, with such an aging conservation commission, an impractical thing to do. We went to the state and asked if there was any requirement that it be yearly. They could find nothing in their records. We brought it before the previous Board of Selectmen, who approved a 5-year monitoring status. We then are required every 5 years to monitor the 19 conservation easements and 7 open space parcels in the town. And that's in perpetuity. So whatever is approved now, you will encumber the town and the public to continue to monitor it forever.
Will you have to wait 5 years for your first monitoring, or will you do one to start and then do another one 5 years
It's
later?
actually required at the very beginning. Once this is approved, I would be in touch with a representative from Electric Boat, walk the perimeter of the property, make sure that all of the conservation easement signs are in place, take pictures of how it exists at present, and create a binder, which is in the vault at the town hall, of every one of the conservation easements. Why photographs? So that even though 90% of the photographs show trees, what we would try to identify is anything that potentially could be changed in between that 5-year period, and therefore call them to task for not maintaining the intent of the application.
Thank you. Any additional questions for Bill? No? Thank you so much. You answered all our questions. I appreciate the support on it.
You bet.
Thank you. So this is in front of us for a vote this evening, and since we haven't actually called for a town meeting to March 2nd yet officially, we'll just call this at a future town meeting. So I would like to motion that we approve this as the Board of Selectmen to go to a future town meeting for town approval.
We didn't set March 2nd yet.
I
didn't set-
I just
Yeah.
motioned, yeah. We haven't seconded yet.
Working its way up into be a really good town meeting. I'll make a motion to pass the EB conservation easement.
You make it,
addition.
you're overriding my motion?
No, oh, you already made it?
I did.
Okay, I'll second then.
Thank
Make it
you.
easy.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Any additional comment?
No.
Any comment from the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Okay, 3-0. So we'll move that to when we call the next town meeting, which rumor has it's March 2nd, but that's not official yet. Okay? Great. Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you. Okay, next. Article 250 appropriation. So this is the one that is actually on the agenda. So I mentioned to Jen when I saw it at a previous meeting that there was some questions I was receiving. Some was about alcohol. We got the email today from Sal Valancourt. So I would just open the discussion with this. Here's some background on my end, and I'll ask you guys before we open it up. I think that obviously this is going to be a special day for the country. I think right now the country needs a special day to kind of come together. And I think hopefully between this and the wonderful idea that the Historic Society has, maybe that thing. We're lucky we live in a town that doesn't seem to be as divided as other parts of the country seem to be. I think when we can get together as neighbors and we're not wearing any R's or D's or I's on our clothing, it's a good time to get together and experience each other's friendship and typically what we do all the time. We found at the last meeting from on past records that in 2007, the town did appropriate $6,500 to the 2007, which was the bicentennial of the town of North Stonington. So there had been a precedent set on that. I'm going to guess in $6,500 in 2007, maybe closer to $12,000 today, just a guess. I also know that so Jen had mentioned that she's going to have a lot of sponsorship, that even though she's asking for a not to exceed 30, and which would have to go to a town meeting, she's thinking with her sponsorship, she'll be able to get back down well below that, and maybe even closer to that $12,000, which I said that precedent might have already been set. I think that there's a lot of people who would say, why would the town put money towards this? What's so special? Why did the town do it in 2007? Why did we do it then? Because I think when special days occur in town, we'd like to embrace them. And not everybody is going to be 100% in favor of how things are done. And I think that Jen and her group will do some fine tuning to see, to get it done the right way, whatever that may be. So I'm not against this at all. I think it's going to be a wonderful day in North Stonington, starting out earlier in the day with the Historic Society and finishing the day with the gathering that will come about with this, if this happens. So how did Jen come about this, right? We didn't vote to make her in charge, and I didn't appoint her per se. She's not an appointed board, it's not a town board. But she was in my office inquiring about what she needed to do the First and Lights Parade back in October. I happened to have this sitting on my desk, and the governor had just sent it out saying, we want all cities and towns to do something. And she saw it sitting there, and I said, well, as long as you're planning a parade, what do you think about this? And I gave it to her. She thought, well, you know, if someone's going to do this, I could be the person that could do this. I said, great, because right now it's on my desk with a lot of other things, and I'd love to have someone take it off my desk. So, in seeing the success of Frights and Lights and the Light Parade and some of the other things that she's been involved in, she's done a lot of the Wheeler Library events. She said, well, who would be better? It's always been proven that she and her group of people can do these things. So that's how it came about. So I didn't ask her, I didn't appoint her. She asked me about it. I thought she'd be a great fit. I said, yeah, take it and run with it. So there was nothing official. And I thought by not having it officially through a town, I'm not requiring agendas and minutes and all the things we do with an appointed committee. So that's how it happened. Right or wrong, maybe we could have done it a different way. At that point, I was just glad to have someone be willing to take this and run with it, because I'm telling you, not every town is going to do that. There's going to be different levels. Jason Mancini, who lives in our town, is the deputy to the director of this for the entire state, and he happens to live in North Stonington. He visited me the other day. He was very excited and let me know that North Stonington, what is at least on the plan right now for North Stonington, it would be one of the nicer events of all the towns he's seen. So that's where we are. Would you like to make any comment before we go any further with this?
Can you just go into a little bit more detail about the grant money that you heard about and what the odds are? And is there a timeline?
So Jason said that I think he said it might have been $55 million that the governor's going to try to put forth, not approved yet, but that would be spread out over 169 cities and towns. He said for a town like North Stonington, we might get $1,500. It wouldn't be a big grant. And actually, I mentioned this to Jen, I would prefer if we did get a $1,500 grant that went to the Historic Society, because they're not fundraisers per se. They're going to be asking us at a different time for about $2,000, which the timeline is different, because I don't have to go to a town meeting with a $2,000 appropriation for the Board of Finance. But if we got this grant, and I mentioned to Jen why I want to give it to the Historic Society, because they don't do a lot of fundraising, and it's not something that they would do, and they don't have I don't think they have a lot of money in the bank per se. So, but we may get it, we may not, and the amount isn't probably going to be very big. John, anything?
No, not at this time.
Okay. So, since we've had a minute, I'm going to open it to the floor. Jen, would you like to speak, or would someone ask a question that Jen can answer? Should.
First, she might clear some things up for us.
Okay. No, I know, I understand. No presentation. So would you rather have, I sent you an email today with questions on it. Do you have any answer to those questions, or would you rather people ask questions, or how do you want to do it?
I would actually love it if I have them, like, answer them.
Okay. So either Sarah, Barbara. Yeah. Perfect. You're on.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
I'm here to voice my concerns about the America 250 party that the three wise women are requesting $30,000 to orchestrate. I can appreciate the work that goes into planning commemorations such as America 250, and I agree that this milestone deserves recognition. However, I respectfully question whether allocating $30,000 in public funds for a single celebratory party is the most responsible or impactful use of taxpayer money. Deciding a significant amount of funds to a one-day party raises concerns about fiscal priorities and stewardship of public resources. Approving this request made by a newly formed and not yet well-established nonprofit may set another precedent that could influence or complicate future budget considerations and funding decisions. Additionally, America's 250th anniversary is fundamentally about history, civic engagement, and reflection on our values. These goals may be better served through lower cost, longer lasting initiatives such as partnerships with our library and historical society, not placing any monetary burden on the town budget. By demanding this project get sent to a town vote in a quick manner causes great concern. Jen states via a message that was sent and shared to Bob and Nicole regarding the Board of Selectmen, and I quote her, "It's a formality, they're in support, then they'll put me through to the BOF, who are mostly in support but will definitely have questions," is clearly showing an expectation that her request will be approved and also showing that there is little respect for democracy or the concerns of taxpayers in our town who have many questions and reservations. The fact that they have already put down a significant deposit for the band, which may have been presumptuous on their part, assuming they would get funding, should not be a reason that the project is approved without being put under careful scrutiny. My biggest concern is regarding the timing of this appropriation request and whether sufficient information was provided to support an informed decision, particularly as it relates to public safety and respect for our community and townspeople, as well as the undesignated fund. Specifically, I believe the following questions require clarification. So I've heard you talk about getting sponsorships, but I'm really totally unclear on how and what that exactly means. I feel like we are going off of her word that she will get this certain amount of money to repay our undesignated fund, which I also don't really understand how that works. So I think I'd just like a little bit more understanding on that piece. You already said that. So also in the presentation, there was nothing stated about who is going to cover the cost for the EMS, fire, and police services, which I assume will be needed all day long for both events that may be happening in our town. My other question is, who will assume responsibility for post-event cleanup and related expenses or unforeseen expenses? Who will secure and pay for any required insurance and permits? And what plan will be in place to monitor and manage alcohol consumption on the library lawn to ensure compliance with local regulations and community standards? I believe these details are essential to evaluate the request responsibly and to ensure appropriate planning, accountability, and protection of town resources. Most importantly, I am concerned that approving this event at this stage may undermine or conflict with the established planning process currently underway with the Historical Society. It is important that we maintain alignment, coordination, and respect for existing organizational efforts to ensure a cohesive approach that serves the best interest of the community. In closing, I encourage you and our taxpayers to consider supporting the event spearheaded by the Historical Society, which includes many other organizations within North Stonington and is not going to take away from our budget. This approach honors the significance of America 250 while demonstrating restraint, inclusivity, and a commitment to responsible spending. Doing so would reflect both respect for the occasion and for the taxpayers who fund our municipal decisions. I also have one more question is, if this were to go through to the Board of Finance for their vote, with Sarah being part of the Three Wise Women, does she get a vote in the matter, or does that a conflict of interest? And along those same lines, do we know who is on their board? Because again, that could also be a conflict of interest if another member were on their board that is also serving in boards in our town. Thank you for your time. And that's it.
All right, we'll get those questions answered. Barbara, do you want to ask, or you want to have Jen work on those first, or?
For me, I want to ask the
whatever in my head, or you want to talk to Sarah? Sure.
It's on? Okay. All right. So first, regarding the stewardship and the planning of this event, the proposal that I put forward was not developed casually or presumptuously. It has been thoughtfully structured with line item budgeting, professional event oversight, and a clear framework for safety, permitting, and accountability. As we all know here, I have produced large-scale public events in North Stonington for the last 6 years. That experience has given me a strong understanding of coordination with our emergency services and our public works, and those same safeguards are in place here. So to address your specific questions regarding the sponsorships, we are ready to actively pursue sponsorships from both families in town and businesses in town. We have multiple different levels at which people can sponsor, whether that is a dollar amount of their own choosing or something very specific. If they want to sponsor the fireworks for $10,000, they can do so, and that will be named after them. As a reminder, every dollar that we raise is going to offset the $30,000 amount that we are asking for. That is our do not exceed number. So if we raise $15,000 through sponsorships and donations, the town's cost will be $15,000. We do expect the town's final cost to come in significantly under $30,000, but obviously I cannot make any kind of guarantee at this time. Regarding public safety, these services are going to be coordinated in advance. This is a further conversation that Three Wise Women needs to have with the Board of Selectmen and the Historical Society to make sure that is coordinated efficiently and responsibly. I do not anticipate that the need or the cost is going to be very significantly different than what it is for Frights and Lights. Cleanup. That would be a Bob question. I have not personally paid it for Frights and Lights.
I'm not exactly sure, sir, but I will say this, that when the town permits an event, it's the town's responsibility, once we permit an event, to protect the citizens, protect the residents. Just, it's no different than the 4 days at the fair. So the 4 days at the fair, I have 2 state troopers on Thursday, 4 on Friday, 4 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday at town expense. The Ambulance Association also goes and is at the fairgrounds. So the town actually donates the emergency services to the event because we need to keep our town safe. So if we're not going to do that, we're not going to permit the event. But once we permit it, we usually try to keep our town safe by we pick up the tab on emergency services. So what it comes in the budget, and usually a trooper overtime is one, and also highway department overtime is another. So there is budgeted for overtime. Even the Memorial Day parade, there's some overtime in that. So, yeah, so it's not something that the town has not done.
Regarding cleanup, of course, we will have a post-event cleanup plan in place. That's very important. That will be organized and ready to go.
That does not include the town, correct?
I'm sorry?
That does not include the town, correct?
Correct. Alcohol. Any alcohol service will comply very, very strictly with local regulations. It will be properly permitted. It will be carefully managed to ensure responsible service. We are going to be limiting the number of drinks that people can purchase. There will be ID checks. There will be safeties in and out. It will be very, very carefully managed. Regarding the deposit for entertainment, that decision was made to secure a very high quality band in a competitive booking environment. It was not an assumption of approval, but rather an effort to hold space for an act that is going to greatly elevate the event to a level worthy of this historic anniversary. And as I stated publicly before, if the town ultimately chooses not to proceed, we will navigate that responsibility accordingly. I would also like to just address the perception that this is just a one-day party. It's much more than that. America's 250th anniversary will not happen again in our lifetime. For a small town like North Stonington, this is an opportunity to gather not just for entertainment, but for shared civic pride. Events like this create economic ripple effects for local vendors and small businesses. They bring former residents home and they create multi-generational memories. Historical reflection and an educational component to this day are vital, and my committee wholeheartedly supports the Historical Society. That event does not compete, it complements. There is something for everyone on this day. Investing once in a landmark celebration is also an investment in our identity and the town's morale. North Stonington deserves a celebration that reflects its pride, history, and community spirit. The Three Wise Women Foundation has shown time and again that we can produce meaningful public events that are safe, well-run, and deeply valued. I can also speak for Sarah Nelson. She plans to recuse herself from the Board of Finance vote. And finally, I would just like to clarify that my comment regarding the meeting process was never intended to dismiss democracy or taxpayer input. On the contrary, I welcome the scrutiny and believe that public dialogue strengthens our projects.
One question on your board, other than Sarah, is there anybody else on Board of Finance or Board of Selectmen that's on your board?
No, there is not.
Thank you. Barbara, questions?
Just explain the alcohol piece a little bit more.
Yeah. I'll say what she said. Sarah just asked if she could explain the alcohol piece a little bit more in detail.
Like how it will be set up?
Like, how will you make sure that I'm not going to run and give my husband my 2 tickets, or to give a neighbor my beer ticket or wine ticket, or whatever the case?
Of course, everyone who is 21 or older will receive a wristband, and the wristbands will be damaged. They'll be hole punched as people purchase tickets or as people purchase their alcohol.
And what is the limit?
3.
Okay. Any other questions?
You care?
Not at all.
Okay. Can I go up?
Sure, of course.
Some of it is similar to what, sorry, I wasn't talking into the microphone. Some of it was similar to what Sarah mentioned, but some of it's a little bit different. And I'm way shorter than you, Jen. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Barbara Deindorfer. I've been a North Stonington resident for over 30 years. I come to it with a little bit of a different perspective. I'm a retired emergency medicine doc. I served as the former director of health eons ago with Nick Mullane, as well as the Will Library Board of Trustee. And at that time, I was heavily involved with fundraising and library programs that took place in the 2010s when my kids were younger. So I think this kind of unique combination of personal experiences that include a perspective that encompasses safety, preparedness, civic duty, fiscal responsibility, and engagement in community activities kind of gives me a different perspective on this. Before I continue, I want to thank you for you and your volunteers for doing all the work on several successful family-focused and frequently frequented town events. A lot of them, my kids were older, so I wasn't at them. That being said, I Zoomed on the previous Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen meetings last week, and I listened to the presentation for the 250th. I was at another meeting, so I had to Zoom the first one. But I wanted to wait and see what was said first before I came up with questions. And as I listened to the proposal for the evening, I initially envisioned this kind of Norman Rockwellish scene, North Stonington folks coming from maybe after attending the Historical Society, their 250th commemorative event, to wind down, laugh, talk, relax at this event. But then when I took a deeper look at the details of what seems to be included or not included, I had questions about the size, the safety, the mission, the purpose, and the real cost of the event. Some of them have been cleared up, and that I think those things warrant a little bit further investigation. One is the size of the event and who can attend. I asked you before, Bob, how many residents we have. You said about 5,200 right now. I thought maybe 1,000, 5,000. You said 5,200. How many people are the organizers hoping that will attend the event? So that's a question. What is the maximum capacity deemed safe by either zoning and or the fire department for that area? And will it be advertised and open to folks outside of North Stonington? If so, Is there a plan somehow to give North Stonington residents a way to RSVP or gain attendance preferentially to folks in other towns? Because it's supposed to be, as you said, multiple times, our town's event, our town's celebration, right? So, and is there a plan to geographically contain the event to monitor how many people are in attendance? Like, I was trying to think of the other two places that do big events. It's either the Grange with the fair or Jonathan Edwards. And in each one of those venues, like the Grange has fences all the way around. If you're driving in, people are taking your money to park you. They know how many people are parked there, or there's always people that walk in. So they have an idea and they know from the fire marshal how many people can be there safely. Same thing at JE. It's like you're a limited amount. The walls are there. They know how many people are parking. They know exactly what they're allowed to do. I don't have a graphic and I couldn't I kind of, like I said, imagined this thing being on the lawn and everyone kind of with, picnics and this and that. And then I'm like, it's totally open. How are you going to be able to tell who's coming in, who's going out? Is it going to spill out onto the road? Are the people on that road, like, how are they going to get in and out? All that kind of stuff. So that's logistics. And then obviously, is it preferentially going to be for North Stonington residents, or is this going to be advertised large and, wide so that people from Westerly and Griswold and all these, and then the North Stonington residents are like this, or they can't get in at all? I mean, those are logistics that aren't explained. So then there's the second. So that's size. Second is safety and staff and cost thereof. Now, you did mention some of that stuff. So do you have a rough idea of how many people you're hoping to come versus the maximum capacity?
It's a very.
Mike, sorry.
Sorry.
You're good. So a lot of people do ask that, and it's a very difficult question to answer. So the short answer is unfortunately no. We don't know. All we have to base it on is what we've seen in the past in Frights and Lights, which has ranged from about 1,000 to, I think our estimates last year based on pictures were like 2,500 attendees at some point. Because it's not a ticketed event, we don't sell tickets. It's free for anyone to attend. So it's really, really difficult. The way we've been able to manage public events that I've done in the past is essentially with parking, because there really is very, very limited parking. If you can't park, we're full. Like if there's nowhere for you to put your car, you just can't come. So that's really the best way we have to manage it. I'd love to have more discussion with my committee on ways to maybe target North Stonington. Along those same lines, I don't have a way to prioritize North Stonington residents or, keep other residents out just because it is such an open location. But it is something that we can certainly talk about a little bit more.
I mean, the other thing too is whenever, like, if you have an event at the library, you are limited to how many people can be indoors. There's always a max capacity that's considered safe by usually the fire marshal or zoning. I'm not sure who exactly, or they do it in conjunction. So I don't know if that was considered, like usually for the Fright Night, don't you have the street closed? So you have a lot more room there because you have the whole capacity of the library lawn, the school, the areas over by the pickleball courts. And then if the whole road is closed, this is a much smaller area. And you weren't serving alcohol. Well, I understand there was an alcohol truck there, but that's different than serving a bunch of alcohol, having a band and fireworks. We were talking about it. We've never had fireworks in this town. That is going to draw that. I don't think we have in 30 years. Have we ever had fireworks here?
They've been at the fairgrounds.
At the fair, but the fair we're saying is a different, because you're limited on how many people can be in there at the time. So there's different considerations here as far as safety goes. And that's where I'm going with this, and prioritizing the people of North Stonington to be able to do this. This is a different kind of event than the Fright Night. Like I said, the family focused event. It's a different flavor to it. So, so the safety and stuff. Okay. So with, let's say you're definitely going to go with 500 or more patrons, including alcohol and fireworks. My question was going to be about the resident trooper and EMS, but apparently that's something that you guys do.
We typically meet before the event and coordinate that,
Okay.
but I think Jen's already spoken with the fire marshal. about.
Yep, okay, and the fire marshal would be dealing with the fireworks as well, and he does that at the range, so that is all taken care of, okay. The other additional costs that weren't noted on this sheet with, you ever had everything itemized. Permits for the fireworks, permits for the alcohol, and permit for the event. Is that something that the Three Wise Women would pay? Seems like it because it's their event, right?
Correct, yeah, it's not a town event.
It's not a town event, so you would be paying for that?
Historically, my permit for Price Lines is $25.
This is different though. This is a ton of alcohol comparatively.
So they're different things. And the permit for the fireworks is included within.
In the fireworks, that's what okay, that was the question with that one. Okay. Insurance. I understand that the library has said that you can sell the, you can have the alcohol on the property of the library. However, I understand that there's additional liability insurance for that. So you have to, that's another cost that isn't on here. Is there separate liability insurance for the town for the event because of the fireworks and because of the number of people and all that kind of stuff?
So the town carries insurance, but each individual has to have their own insurance also. So the people who do the fireworks have to have insurance.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, everyone has to have their own insurance.
Okay, so then do you have to have more insurance for that particular event? Do you have to take out a?
I don't know if we have to have more, like the fireworks, people do the fireworks. That's what
That I
they do.
know. that I
So
know.
I would think that, I'm not sure, I'd have to ask that question, Barbara, I'm
Okay,
not sure.
because all of that stuff, whether it's you paying for it or it's all cost of the event. So
There is also, you'll notice, a $2,000 contingency line item in the
Right.
budget to cover unexpected things.
right,
like
but
that.
I have no idea how much those things cost.
Sure,
So,
sure.
And the other thing was, so the insurance to serve the alcohol for the library has to be purchased. And then you mentioned event cancellation insurance, so
Mhm.
that's not on here either. So I don't know how much.
Event
this-
cancellation insurance would be just included with the event insurance. It's not as necessarily a separate policy.
Okay, but those things aren't on here either. So the library insurance and that insurance, none of that's on here.
Mm-hmm.
So does that take it above 30? I would think so, right? Depending on whether that 2,000 covers it. I don't know.
It will.
Okay, well, I'd like to see the numbers. Sure. But finally, there's the whole alcohol issue. I looked at it, initially I didn't look at it, and I looked at it when I got home, and I'm like, there's $7,500 worth of alcohol on here. And I realize the town's not paying for it, but that's $7,500 worth of alcohol. Is that wholesale or retail? It's a huge difference.
We are spending $3,000 wholesale on alcohol.
So
And we are
why-
only cutting
Why
it
is there $7,500?
because that's what the retail price would be.
Okay, and so how many drinks that, I have to convert. This is where I'm counting on
Sure.
you as the event expert to tell me how many drinks does that equate to for the night?
It's
For yourself.
not so much, we're not so much concerned with the amount of alcohol that will be available for purchase, but rather limiting the amount of alcohol that each person can purchase. Each person will be limited to 3 drinks.
Okay, and it will be sold.
Correct.
Okay, and who will be getting the proceeds from the sale of the alcohol?
3 wise women.
Okay, I have a huge issue with that. Okay, so if you're keeping the proceeds from the alcohol, then there are town costs from the event that are specifically related to the alcohol. That if it's your fundraising event, you should be paying. The tents, all that $4,800 right at the beginning, you should be paying that. And essentially, we need to see this as the town subsidizing a fundraising event for a nonprofit at the expense of the taxpayers. Because what other nonprofit does something like this, sells all the alcohol, makes the money off of it, and we're paying for the entertainment portion of their event. We're paying for the fireworks and we're paying for the band. So in that respect, why not just drop the alcohol? Put on this great event, do this, and charge $5 for people to come in or whatever. But this, we're providing, the town, the taxpayers are providing all the entertainment for this event. and then they're selling the alcohol. Is there any other nonprofit that does anything like that?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, so this is what I'm talking about, transparency. This is not transparent at all.
Hmm.
When you put the event on for the library, it's a library fundraising event. The library gets its own sponsors. The library pays its insurance. The library pays whoever, the servers, the food, all of that. And whatever they make and they sell tickets for the event. And then that's what their profits are after that. I can't think of any other time where, and I may not know, where the town puts on an event. It's a town-sponsored event and a nonprofit is making money off of it. And we're essentially providing all of the other things to make this an event for them.
So at this point, that's the biggest drawback on your end is that there's profit to be made.
I don't like all the alcohol either. I think, can I just say one
But
more?
that's where the profit would be made, right, on the alcohol sales.
Yeah, that they're profiting.
Oh, I
from it.
understand.
I
yeah.
mean, another way to do it is to, another way to do it would be to just have an alcohol truck there. If the point is you want people to have a good time, be able to relax a little bit, have a drink or two, have the alcohol truck there. You know, then again, you're limiting how many drinks each one of them can have. There's no conflict of interest at all. You have your food trucks, you have your alcohol truck. You're doing a great thing for the town, providing this great event, right? But there's no conflict there. There's no conflict of interest. I think it really gives the wrong message. And I think there's a huge transparency issue there. I really do. So there's still issues with how to confine the whole thing or how you're going to do that. But I mean, you know what my questions are. The bottom line is I'd like to see, and I think all the North Stonington taxpayers deserve full transparency and accountability in all the aspects of this event. Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest thing is a nonprofit. I mean, if you're, yeah, it really doesn't seem like it's okay. I mean, you're having the town pay for the beverage tent and you're selling alcohol and making all the money off of it. I mean, how is that okay for the taxpayer to do that, to pay for that? That's not okay. You know? So I think it needs some reexamination, maybe not from me, but maybe from the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. I don't know.
Mhm.
To be clear, you understand that the town is not purchasing the alcohol, correct?
I know that.
Okay,
I know
okay,
that.
okay.
But it's basically you're running your fundraising event and having the town pay for all the entertainment for your event.
Okay,
It's not
I'm
okay.
sorry that you view it that way, but I appreciate your opinion.
It's why I asked, has there ever been another, I mean, if the whole idea is to have alcohol demand and give people, like, be able to have them wind down or whatever, you know, relax a little bit, then have the alcohol truck there. Then don't create a conflict of interest.
So the reason we actually decided not to go with an alcohol truck is because we didn't want any hard liquor sales. We are only selling wine from Jonathan Edwards and Kingdom of the Hawk and beer, hopefully from Chinook.
Then don't have any alcohol at all. You don't need any alcohol. I mean, you don't need it. If the reality is, if the whole purpose of this is for people to celebrate this day, to come together, to be nonpartisan, all those things you said, then why do we need the alcohol? Let them have the food trucks, people can buy food, people can bring their own picnic basket, whatever they want to do. Then don't make it a fundraising event. You don't even need the alcohol. People go home, they want to have a beer before they come and a beer before they, you know, when they get home, fine. We can all not have the alcohol. And then you think about it. If you have the alcohol and you have no idea how many people are going to be there, this is where I'm talking about ER experience, looking at you, Nicole, and what happens when you mix a ton of people and alcohol, and like you create an environment where you're looking for trouble. It doesn't mean you can't have those kinds of events, but alcohol always adds problems to the mix. So with that many people, and especially if you don't know them. It's like, if it's your neighbor, maybe you'll have a fight with them, maybe you won't. It depends if you get along with them. But if you've got a lot of people from outside of town and you don't know them and things like that, you may not say, oh, well, I'll give them a pass. I won't say anything. If they say something that seems inflammatory, or, you may say, oh yeah, I know him. He gets like that kind of thing. But I don't know. I think there's a conflict here, and for that matter, I think if you're fundraising off of any component of this, I think then you should offer that ability to fundraise to other nonprofits in town. And they should all have representation there. I don't agree with selling and profiting off the alcohol at all, but then do something else and sell t-shirts or sell something, whatever. Have the pie ladies, like everyone else who's a nonprofit should be invited and be there too. If this is a true community event. That's it.
Thank you.
Jen, I just have a couple of questions off
Sure.
of some of Barb's comments. Has Three Wise Women kind of thought about where the fireworks will be let off? Or does the company come on out and take a look at the environment and decide where it might be safest to let them off?
Both, actually. We are looking at the property behind the high school, but they will come out and they will confirm
gotcha.
that
Okay.
is the best place. If for some reason there was no place in town that would be visible from the lawn, then we simply wouldn't move forward with it.
Okay. And then is the plan to, like with Frights and Lights, to close the entire Main Street?
No, that's not my plan. I don't think it's necessary. We could have further conversation about that. And if it became necessary, I'm not opposed to it. But I also don't want to be tremendously inconvenient to the residents of Main Street or people who need to get through.
So the plan is can you just remind me, what is the actual space
It's the library lawn and the grounds here at the 298 property.
Okay. Okay. John, do you have any questions?
Have you thought about opening it up, like she said, to other nonprofits?
We have.
Have you been able to make any contact with them?
A few, yes. What we are kind of in a holding pattern about is we can't move forward with too many plans and put too much out publicly until we know whether or not the town will give us the funding required. So it's a little bit of a chicken and an egg situation, but yes, it is a fantastic idea and it is something that we have talked about.
So I just wanted to add one more comment. So, sitting up here is always interesting with some of these more controversial things. And one of the ways, and I kind of hear Brett in my head sometimes, one of the ways that I work through it is that the three of us can make a decision to move something forward to a town meeting, but ultimately it's the town that will decide. So
Certainly.
I think both Sarah and Barb's comments give you a lot of thought and input into what kind of questions and what kind of scrutiny you may get at a town meeting. Because ultimately the people in the room, we all know, I hear you as well say, sometimes it's just the people in the room that are voting that night and making that decision. But I hear you, and that is our town form of government. So I think it's great feedback to hear other perspectives, to know where you guys need to focus your efforts on the night of the town meeting.
It is great feedback and I welcome it.
Yeah. And I think that I asked the question at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, and that was, if it does not pass, you confirmed there will be no event.
Correct.
Because it's just that scope is just not possible with sponsorships that you would get.
And the difficulty is that it might be, right? There's no reason why we couldn't collect $30,000 in sponsorships. But with the monies that are due and the deadlines with which we have to pay, it's just too much of a gamble.
Can you, have you and your board, come up with a mission statement or a vision, statement for Three Wise Women? I think that I have in my head what you do, and that's just based on past events. Do you have, what is the goal of your nonprofit?
So the goal of our nonprofit is ever evolving. But what we are currently focused on is really supporting low cost community events that are accessible to everyone. We want, among other things, to really be able to enhance the community and make it this wonderful, even more of a wonderful, special community. Not so much focused on, initiatives with the school, but basically what we want to be able to do is step in and fill in the gaps where we see that, maybe something is needed and there's not funding for it. And also supporting the idea of third spaces, these locations or events where people can just come and gather and just be together.
So I just because in my mind, and I want to maybe kind of help my perspective of your concern, Barb, about the profiting. If it's a nonprofit, whatever you make off of, if, at a town meeting, I don't know, the alcohol portion of the event may get voted down and maybe the rest of it goes, and then your board decides whether that is something that's acceptable to you or not. But in my mind, any kind of profit that you come up with from the sale of the alcohol goes to your nonprofit, which then kind of goes back into other community events, because I know we have a small line item for Three Wise Women for Frights and Lights,
Yes.
Mostly for the lights portion of the Frights and Lights event. So I think it will be important that night for you to be able to help people understand what your mission is and what that money that you may profit off of the alcohol sale, what that may go towards in the future.
Sure. So actually, as an example, we are a newer nonprofit organization, but in the last year, we donated, I want to say 36 Easter baskets that were then distributed by Linda Costanza. We fulfilled 10 wish lists at Christmas time for children and families in need. We sponsored a free coffee day for municipal employees and our first responders, and we covered any incidental expenses that were related to Frights and Lights. So even though we are newer and a little bit quieter, everything that we make is going right back into this community.
I think that will be important to have the town understand at a town meeting.
And else?
I think I'm all set. Thanks. Sorry.
I'm gonna make more comment. But first I want to see if there's anybody else in the audience who would like to comment. Anybody else? Anything to say on the subject? Okay, so I will be honest with you. I come to these meetings, my mind is in a certain mode. Bill Vicker could attest to this. I have one that I can change my mind. I think there's been enough said tonight that's made me, as the first selectman, somewhat nervous about a couple of things that come up. When I can't identify another nonprofit that the town donates to, and then they make profit. The profit doesn't come back to the town. So the taxpayers are donating to an event that then in turn the nonprofit is making money off the event. So we don't donate to the fair. So whatever money they make. I can't think of a nonprofit that we actually produce, we pay for either, whether it be bands, fireworks, whatever it happened to be. And then they make the profit and they take it. Right? So that's not our job to support nonprofits that way. We support nonprofits through the budget. That's the way we do support them, or through an appropriation. Now, at the same token is the fact that this piece of property is not a secure piece of property, it's an open piece of property. If I could be sure that was all North Stonington residents, I would be a lot more comfortable. I know what happens at places like Sailfest when you advertise fireworks. People will go to the fireworks and sometimes there's havoc because fireworks draw a lot of people. And even if there's no parking close by, you can see fireworks from quite a ways away. So you can park at a distance. The fact that we haven't had fireworks in a number of years that I can remember, That is, I think the fireworks is a great idea, and I don't mind the fireworks, but we have the fireworks with the alcohol, with the road perimeter to secure, and not anything that's telling me it's all North Stonington residents. We made a statement that said, well, at the town meeting, if they vote to do it without alcohol, would that be okay? Well, that's not, there's not two questions, there's only one question. Do you support the event or don't you? It's not question one, do you support it with alcohol? Question two, do you support it with alcohol? Be able to vote this evening and say 100% yes, I'm behind this without the alcohol piece. I'm not so sure I can vote to say yes, I'm 100% behind this with the alcohol piece because of those other things I just mentioned. And the fact there's a profit being made off taxpayer dollars. If so when the given closet was in effect, if they were selling all their clothes for $1, $2, $3, and the town was giving them money to run the given closet, then that would be a pushback to me saying, well, wait a minute, we're giving them taxpayer money so they can make money. I'd rather give them money in the budget. I'd rather support Three Wise Women in the budget than have them make profit off an event that we're actually paying for the event for them. And even if they get all the money they need, we don't know that right now. And because the event is asked for not to exceed $30,000, it has to go through a process, which includes a town meeting. So as of this evening, I would feel very uncomfortable willing to push this through tonight. I would rather have the Three Wise Women, they're all wonderful people, to come up with put their heads together, have a meeting, come up with a alternate plan to come back to us. If it doesn't make the March 2nd town meeting, it doesn't mean we can't call a town meeting in April. I mean, it's going to be farther down the road, but we can call another town meeting. I don't like to have them every other month, but if we need to have them, we need to have one. We can do that, and they would be maybe the only thing on it. But I would feel it's tough for me this evening. I'd love to have John who rebut this. For me to vote yes tonight, to move this to the Board of Finance, to move it to a town meeting so quickly when there's so many unanswered questions. And I do think that this would be a better event without alcohol. Because as the first selectman, I'm thinking about the day after. I'm thinking like, what happened and could we have prevented it? If we didn't know that those two guys that came from another town decided they were going to whip it up and drink and cause and they're not even North Stonington residents. Could that happen? It could happen. But at least no one can say, well, you should have known better. You had alcohol. You didn't have, you had people coming from other towns. You don't know who they are. And it's a town sponsored event, basically. And that concerns me. So when we bring this to a vote, those are some of my concerns. And Jen, if you'd like to answer those, I'd be glad to. You've kind of answered them, but I don't know if it's going to change my mind.
Oh, this is flashing. Can you guys still hear me? It's flashing at me, the batteries.
Yeah, I can hear it.
We're honestly not that tied to the alcohol. If that's going to be a sticking point, yes, I would need to go back and talk to my committee, but none of us are primarily excited about the alcohol. We base this off of a couple different things. One of them being the Old Taste of Mystic. And that was a public event, non-ticketed. People could come in. They had a beer tent, very similar to how we envision this being structured, carefully managed with ID checkers and tip certified bartenders and a limit to how much you could purchase. Not going to lie, it was a little bit prohibitively expensive. So, that kind of controlled things a little bit as well.
Was that a dual town event? Was it both Groton and Stonington, or was it all in one town?
Put on by the Chamber of Mystic.
So it was all in one town or both towns?
It was on Cottrell Street.
So that's all in Stonington?
In Mystic in downtown.
But
where the Whalers Inn is. It was that whole
So on the
street.
Stonington side?
Correct.
So do you know if Stonington actually put money through taxpayer dollars to support that event?
I'm not sure about how it was structured, to be
Because that's one of
honest.
the sticking points.
Sure.
So
No, we're not.
So there's two things you could do.
Sure.
In my opinion, you could huddle out in the hallway or go in the back, huddle, come back with an answer, or see if it flies tonight with the alcohol. But I would just say I would have trouble voting for me to vote yes for it tonight with the alcohol piece. And we could go to another town meeting maybe in April. Again, we don't like to call town meetings because they get frivolous after a while, but
Sure.
if it meant getting this event off the ground and we went to a town meeting without alcohol, but as of tonight, with it in place and with the no restrictions from anyone coming, which is great. And the fireworks draws people for miles. And I think the aftermath of what could happen, and then shame on me for not identifying that before the event, those things are, I think, are troublesome for me, so. I don't mind the alcohol truck,
Sure,
because we had that at Frights and Lights and that was fine.
sure, sure. I think that we will try to fire up our little group chat there and see what we're gonna do, but I am leaning toward alcohol not being the hill that we die on.
Tell me there's no alcohol and we can vote tonight. If you just tell me there's alcohol, we can vote, but it may not pass, and then it's gonna go to the Board of Finance tomorrow.
I think we're gonna go with potentially exploring an alcohol truck as opposed to a tent that Three Wise Women will profit off of.
Okay,
I can tell him. I can tell him.
Which part?
If you'd agree with that.
I think we're gonna take your suggestion and go with the alcohol truck.
So then, would some of the other parts go there now?
only so people up, so those people,
No, because they gotta hear you online.
we can hand you a microphone.
Yeah.
Would the budget also then get? Would the budget also get readjusted then? Because you don't need the alcohol tent?
That's what we were gonna ask, like if we were
Sorry.
if we eliminated the alcohol expenses, could they do up to 21,000? Because doing calculations, taking away approximately the 8150 for the dollar
I think you're looking
beverage.
at the retail column. So I believe that the only alcohol related expense that was included under the town's responsibility was the tent for the actual location where alcohol would be served.
Okay, that's the
all-
retail estimate. So the actual estimate on your thing is still 29,000, but the alcohol, we just prohibit alcohol, but you still need up to 30. Correct?
I would need to go back and redo some math, but I'm thinking, I don't have that memorized, you know,
I mean, I got the sheet if you
Yeah,
want to look
'cause
at it, is what I'm saying, because just trying to do math so we can get, I see this is all blanked out on the alcohol side. So we'd still need up to 30. We just wouldn't sell alcohol at the event. You would go in an alcohol truck. So it'd still be up to $30,000.
There's a
Okay.
beverage tent though. Why would you need a beverage? Is that where you were going to sell the alcohol, was in the beverage tent? Correct. So if you have the alcohol truck, you don't need the beverage tent. Do you need the other tent as well then?
Yes, the other tent is for the band. They cannot perform open air.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so at least take some of that cost off. All right.
So it's a not to exceed number anyway.
Correct. It's
Yeah, it's
really
not to
not.
exceed, and it's 880 for the actual cost of the tent. So it's not to exceed.
It's
So if they didn't-
$880.
880 for the beverage tent is what was on there.
All right, so the
Sheet.
to stay as a not to exceed number of 30.
It could still stay as not to exceed as 30 and just eliminate the part of
And
the,
that's with no
beverage.
and that's with no sponsorship.
that's with no sponsors at this time.
It's not a significant financial adjustment to
Okay.
remove the smaller tent.
Yeah. Do you want to make comment on my comments?
No, I'm just wondering, I know we're throwing a bunch of stuff kind of at you, and I want you guys to be able to kind of thoughtfully take everything in. I'm just wondering, and looking at the timeline, and I understand the next couple of months are going to go by fast. So if it's going to happen, you need to lock people in. And that was one of the reasons why we were trying to push for March 2nd. If we don't have another regular meeting in between. So I would just pose, do we give you all this feedback, have you guys go back? Do we call a quick special meeting after hearing back from you? You may, so I hear you say you're not completely tied to the alcohol tent and the sale of alcohol. But I'm assuming you would want to go back and discuss it with your board. Do we call a special meeting? Do you just, are you comfortable
so
tonight saying I'm going to remove the alcohol off the table? And again, I don't think we necessarily adjust the 30,000
Right.
because it is up to 30.
I think there's not enough time to call. We're having a special meeting Thursday to call for the March 2nd. So I don't think other than this evening, there's no other way we can do it.
Okay.
We'd have to have a special town meeting maybe in April.
So what I hear you saying is that,
Just me. Well,
I know.
For the record, I can confirm that everyone is fine dropping the sale of alcohol.
Okay.
It's okay.
Except for the truck.
Oh, yeah, we can still do the truck.
I have another question about the truck.
Sure.
Because I didn't experience that.
Sorry about what, we can give you a microphone to take
You can
back.
take the microphone over there.
Take it back, I think, Sarah.
Does the truck limit how much people can drink? Because then you're still, there's the two issues with the alcohol. There was the selling and the profit of it, but there's also alcohol with a bunch of people that you don't know, and we don't know how many people are gonna be there, and fireworks and a band. I mean, it's kind of that recipe.
Yeah.
So there's two different issues.
So Jen, because I help with Frights and Lights, did we have an alcohol truck? So I did not even realize that. So if we have an alcohol truck during Frights and Lights for the last 1 or 2 years, or just this past year?
3. The last
yeah.
several years. Yep.
Interesting.
It's kind of like,
Event though,
so-
family, kids running around in their costumes and stuff versus.
but Barbara, so it's kind of like, it's like an ice cream truck and there's a line. And by the time you get 25 back in line, get to get your drink, well, then you got to get back to the back of the line again. So if you want to keep doing that, but it's not something that really causes a lot of people, you dress to and draft beers. And
Right, so
it's not like,
that's-
it's a much slower process.
Okay.
And someone might say, oh, I'm not going to stand in line for an hour just to get one more vodka tonic or whatever it is. you know.
All right. And
No
can-
vodka tonic at all,
can
right?
you-
No, they have-
When
they have
you
drinks.
hire
Oh,
the truck,
the truck.
can you say, like, we don't want you to exceed this much, or I don't know how it works.
Well, any professional liquor provider has an obligation and
I
training
know.
to, safe serve and
Yeah.
Well, I think they're kind of in the line themselves, right? 'Cause
They are.
if they're the only person selling alcohol in the whole place and something happens, it would be on them.
All right, so it'd be one truck, right? And then would that negate having you getting insurance from the library to serve? Because would they be on the library property and you'd still have to get insurance to,
they would still have to be on the library property,
okay.
but they would provide their own insurance.
So you don't have to
Naming
do-
the library as additional insured,
Okay, so that takes another cost off of there.
a minimal one.
Yeah, I mean,
But since this is.
Still went up too.
It's not to exceed 30,000, and so far we're looking at less than $1,000 worth of coming off of that. And if she's got the sponsorships that says we could get, it's probably gonna be closer to that 12 to 15,000 total.
I mean, if there's not the volume of the alcohol and then there's not the conflict of interest of benefiting from the sale of the alcohol, I think that is a lot better and safer.
And I think this is a good victory on your side. I think this is a good victory on your side, if you ask me. I think because I think it makes sense when you made sense.
I told you, that's why I said, I tried to say like what my background is and the way my head works. And
Yeah, we worked many sale
Nicole
fests
knows.
whew, in that ER.
So, okay.
And I also applaud the Three Wise Women to say we're able to turn, like a left-hand turn here and we want our event so badly that this is something we can
Well,
work
we
on.
are very serious that I honestly have no personal feeling about whether or not this event goes on. However, we want to do something incredible for the town. And if the feedback that we are getting is that this is a concern, then we're happy to accommodate.
Mhm. And I don't know if the alcohol could make the event, but it could break the event. You need a microphone if you're gonna say something.
I'm just trying to picture it all in my head with just using the lawns. So I'm just trying to picture all of this with just using the lawns and having vendors, having a big tent for the band. I know library does the concerts on the lawn and that's great. It's obviously much smaller. They don't need a huge tent. It's not a huge band. Where is all of this going to fit? Plus all of the people that will be coming in once they hear about this party. I can't picture it. And I guess that goes back to what Barb had said about the fire marshal and the capacity.
So we know the event will have over 500 people, and that's when the fire marshal and EMS kicks in anyway. They do it for the fairgrounds, and anytime we have an event, believe it or not, they even do it for the Memorial Day Parade. So as long as, if we know we're gonna have more than 500 people, and they notify State Department of Homeland Security, because anything that's more than 500 people in one area, they need to know, they want to know, because it could pose a threat. But on this particular day, most towns are doing their events on June 27th, not on July 4th. So there'll be other events going on around town. I know Wesley's doing events. I'm not sure what Stonington's doing,
I've
but
heard that most of them are doing like year-long events.
I have not heard that.
I have not heard a lot of towns that are doing just a June 27th day event.
Okay.
But I guess Westerly, now that.
No, I don't know. I think they're doing multiple events on multiple, but they are doing that day also. So. Okay, was there any other concern you wanted to mention?
Yeah, so where are the vendors? If the street's not closed, where are the vendors gonna be?
There's more room than you think. When you take down the middle school, that you've got that piece of.
Oh, I know, it's huge.
And you've got the pickleball
do
court
understand.
area and the basketball court, that, there's quite a bit of room, actually.
So that's where the vendors will go.
That's
Will be on
where,
the
yeah, that's
lawns.
where the group would be, yeah.
Okay. All right, I have a better visual. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, then Selectmen, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve an appropriation request not to exceed $30,000 to the Three Wise Women for the 250th anniversary of America.
Is that as proposed without the alcohol, sale of alcohol?
Proposed without the sale of alcohol from the Three Wise Women.
I'll second.
Okay, so the motion is to approve to up an appropriation up to $30,000 to support the Three Wise Women event for June 27th. And they've agreed to take the alcohol piece out for them selling it, but there still will be an alcohol truck on site. That's what we're approving.
Correct.
And that's what we'll go to the Board of Finance with tomorrow. Right.
Yes.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, so that's what we're doing. Tomorrow night we'll be here again with the Board of Finance. We'll tell them how we approved it. You're more than welcome to be here again. Explain. That's it. Okay, moving on. I see Chris came back. Thank God. Chris, can you come up and then I just want to introduce you, and so you saw the background on Mr. Case, and I'd like to have him be our deputy emergency services director, working directly under the Chief Steinhardt, who's our EMD. Young but very experienced. He's done an awful lot through the fire company. Did you get fireman of the year? Was it last year or the year before?
2023.
2023, yeah, because I was there. So amazing young man. I first got to see him playing basketball for Wheel High School. It seems like that was not that long ago, because I know you're not that old. But going through the ranks, has done all the studies, all the classes, online classes that needed to be done. Chief Steinhardt speaks very highly of Chris, as does Gary Barron. I mentioned while you were going that Gary Barron has resigned, but he's also going to be still affiliated as in an advisory role. And I think the chief has had you understand what your role will be, especially if the chief's not there. Only the emergency services director and the deputy and the first selectman can open the emergency services facility if need be. Just wanted to introduce Chris, and I'd like to motion that we appoint him as the deputy director of emergency services. Any second. Any questions for Chris, or do you all know Chris?
What year did you graduate?
I graduated from Wheeler in 2018.
You're
Trying to
after
place
him.
you in between my two
Yeah,
girls.
so 2 years after Maddie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll be 26 in March.
I didn't need to, sorry.
Save everyone a little mad.
Probably not an appropriate question. I was just trying to
Okay.
figure out if my girls knew you.
Yeah, they probably know who he is. Yeah. Did you go to Wheel all 4 years, or?
Yes, sir.
You did, yeah.
All right.
So
Well,
I think.
thank you for
I think
taking this on.
being he's so in tune to detail, I think it's amazing. And you also hold the rank at the fire company, don't you?
Yes, so I'm the rescue lieutenant for the fire company, as well as the deputy chief for operations of the ambulance.
And so he's on both. So he works with Logan. In fact, you don't know this, but at the last meeting, I dropped your name because I congratulated It's in the minutes.
Yep.
You, Logan, Steve Sora, and another gentleman, Hewitt.
Yes.
Because you helped two women up on Riverman and they claim you saved their lives and you couldn't say enough nice things about you at our last meeting. So you get to meetings in a row. You're like a star. So, thank you. And thanks, you all set with that fire tonight? No problems?
Yes, everything's handled.
Good, thank you. So we have a motion. All those in favor of appointing Chris Case as the Deputy Emergency Director, Emergency Services Director, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
back. All right. Fantastic. All right, social services. So the clock's ticking on this. I came in yesterday for a few hours and again early this morning. I had to get this knocked out. You'll see in here, there's a Director of Human Services job description. What I did was I went through some neighboring towns like Stonington, other towns that have a position similar to this. And I came up with I passed it out tonight. It looks like this.
I'll find it. Yep. Sorry, got it.
All right, John, look at the bottom of your pile. It was the last thing in the pile, I think.
I'll see one, Bob. Unless it was stapled to this.
It's with the budget.
I passed out too many papers.
Did you
Sorry.
send it electronically? So I can-
I did. I think I did, but I didn't. I know it's on his desk because I gave it to him. Well, anyway, so here's the thing. So I had to come up with a description of what we want to do with human services, and basically what we hope to do is have this person. We're adding a piece of what we already have, which is senior services, senior center director, and agent for the elderly. We're adding this social services division, which makes this whole thing called human services. Doesn't mean that we're not doing senior services, senior center director, and agent for the elderly all rolled into one, plus this piece. So we're thinking it's a full-time job, but not a 40-hour-a-week job. Myself and Suzanne are thinking I'd like to start this out as a 30-hour-a-week job and see where we go with that. It's very descriptive in here what it entails. I think the biggest thing is knowing if someone's in need, how to get them help. Where do they go from help? And I use the example of when there's an animal in need, we say call Kasha. And I want this to be that same thing, call this person. So if anyone, no matter what age, no matter what's the situation, we want to have a human services director that says, hey, everyone in town knows if there's something going on, call this person, whoever that person, he or she may be. So they're still going to be responsible for doing trips and meals and all the things they do now, but add this extra piece, which is a very confidential service piece called social services, which makes up the entire thing, makes up human services. The timeline on this is working backwards. Teresa's going to retire at the end of March. We know that. So she's retiring at the end of March. And I confirmed that, Nicole, after you had mentioned there might be some second thoughts. So I'd like to get someone in there by the last week in March or no later than April 1st. Teresa could stay on a little longer as an advisory if need be. I'd like to start doing interviews sometime in the middle of March. We have so many meetings in the first week in March and the third week in March because of the budget. I was thinking the second week in March. I mentioned this to John that Nicole, I would ask you to be on the interview committee with myself, Suzanne Thoreau, and the director of human services from Stonington. So I think those, if we get that group, and I already have 3 applicants, we haven't posted this job yet. So, but I want to post this job sometime in early March to have interviews start taking place in the middle of March and have someone in line to start sometime in early April. Hopefully April 1st, but not sometime in early April anyway. And that's where we are with this. I think it's It's important that we get this done. The town asked for this in the last budget season. Obviously, there'll be a small impact to the budget because we're changing. We're adding a position and we're making a part-time into a full-time position, which then requires us to also offer benefits. But I think we can't, this isn't a position that can go part-time, but if we start at 30 hours, which makes someone eligible for benefits, and then we need to go to 35 or 40, or do something with an assistant down the road, a part-time assistant. It gives us room, but I don't want to jump right to 40, not knowing if we need that or not. So there's no real vote on this. I just wanted to get your input on the timeline. If you think we can pull this off, I'll give you a chance to look at the job description, see if there's something you might want to change in it. And then once we're good on this job description, I want to post it.
All right. Maybe you and I can just, or the three of us, we can't work offline, but under the education experience and training, just the wording, the education experience and training required would generally be acquired with a master's in social services.
There's an out at the back, at the end of that, though, if you see that.
Yeah, or a bachelor's with
There's a note after that too. The third line. There's or 5 or 10 years of experience in social services program administration in lieu of a degree. The last sentence.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think that we all know that it's nice to have a degree, but I would take someone with experience over someone with a degree any day.
I just wanted to make sure that we had the flexibility.
Yes, we have that. Yep.
Okay.
And I thought back at a previous hire because of that.
Okay.
But you have to tell me this evening. We're going to see each other tomorrow night. So just let me know after you look at it. Either drop me an email or I'll see it tomorrow and just say it looks good or you want to make a suggested change. Then I'd like to get this thing posted sooner instead of later.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I think this will be a nice addition for the town. Next, budget discussions. So I gave you here's the first rendition of the budget. Again, every line item has been filled. The difference, I gave you a cover page this time. And if you look at the cover page and you look at the very top line, it's going to send a shiver down your back. We've never had an increase with that percentage since we've been here. 13.95. Okay. We've never had that. And I don't assume we're going to have anywhere near that when we're done with this budget. However, what I'd like to do, I'm going to take all the bright yellow out of this now that I have, that was just to tell me every line get entered. But I think what we're going to have to do is have you, Nicole, and you, John, go through it. I already have my one I have marked up on my desk where I think that we're going to have to make some adjustments. So there's 3 things that are going to happen. We're going to have to make some major adjustments, some minor adjustments, and I also need to tell a story about some of our revenue that's offsetting some of the increases in expenses. Just to give you an example, if my revenue went up by 50,000 and the same line item in our expenses went up by 50,000, it's a net zero to the taxpayer. So, but the taxpayer doesn't see the revenue line in the voting booth. They only see what the increase is. So in the past, like we've told that story last year, we said, well, if we didn't take the 100,000 from the school, we'd be at this. But because we took the 100,000, we're at this. Those kind of stories have to be told again this year because it's going to be very tough to get this down to a manageable number that the taxpayer is going to understand if we don't tell that story about, this is after we get done working on the budget. But I think there's a lot of money that's in revenue that went up, like tipping fees. They went up by, I think it's over $100,000. Yet it's only a $25,000 net to the taxpayer. So that's the story that has to be told. But this has to come down. We have more presentations tomorrow evening, so we're not doing anything to it yet. But after our presentations tomorrow evening, March 3rd, which is our next meeting after that, is when we're really going to have to hammer this budget down and then present it to the Board of Finance. And the fact that it's a reval year, we've told the residents that, hey, it's a reval year, we're going to drop this mill rate way down, so we're not going to feel those effects of all our houses that went up by so much. So it's not a year to go out and spend a lot of money on the budget side. Another good news is on the front page is you see the capital is down 41.97%, which is a $316,000, $316,466 drop. So that helps the overall budget quite a bit. Doesn't help our budget, but it helps the overall budget.
So Bob, the 13, I know we're just going to start to take a stab at this, but the 13, let's just say the 14% increase. Does that not include right now any of the library potential debt?
No, there's a library debt,
If
but
it
you go in the
passes.
second line where it says debt. So right now that's 1,382,949. That's, if you look at the very last page,
Flat, right?
the very last page, so that's the school and the emergency services building. So that debt, let's say it's roughly 130,000 per year. That'll go on that line under debt.
Okay.
So right now that's always zero because it stays the same every year, but that will go up
Okay.
if the library number is in there. Yep. And of course, the education is budget isn't in here yet.
Just at a quick glance, I mean, some of it looks to be, I know annexation, we have to look at that and that.
Yeah.
And some of it is definitely salary and fixed.
So the thing with the salary is we talked about how we, I mentioned this at our gathering, that's so tough to find and then retain town employees. Nobody's going to school to become a tax collector or an assessor or a town clerk. When you get a good one, someone's always trying to steal that person from you because there's so much movement in municipal government. So when you have a good one, you need to keep that person. And we can't pay the same dollars as a Groton or Waterford could pay, or even a Stonington. But we did a salary survey to let our employees know that they're going to be paid fairly, and if not, we're going to bump them to where they need to be not the highest paid employees around, but the salary survey was, we weren't being compared to Stonington or Groton or Waterford. We compared to Ledyard, Preston, Valentines, Basra, similar towns in size. So if our employee is underpaid compared to those towns, we need to get them where they need to be. I will say this, in the assessor's office, by going to the part-time assessor and going to the third party in the IT office, it saved us a lot of money in fringe as far as like health and retirement and so on. So with the going to the part-time assessor and saving all that money on the medical side, it well outweighs the increase in the salaries. But that's not going to be a tough one to explain, actually. Some of the other ones might be a little tough, but that's not.
Okay. What do you don't want to go line by line?
Not tonight.
Okay.
No, we have those presentations tomorrow. No, but I'd like to have, after the presentations between now and March 3rd, I'd like to have you guys go line by line.
Right.
And stop marking down after you've heard everything. And I will get you know how I give you the original ask, we had them in that book.
Yeah.
I'll start getting Jen to 3-hole punch those things and get those to you. You'll get some more tomorrow night on what's being presented tomorrow night. It's the library, the fire company, which you got last week, and land use. But then I get all the other ones, all the 501c3s. I get those all to you.
Okay.
That's it. That's the discussion this evening on this. No, we have plenty of nights to go line by line.
Yeah.
Tonight's not one of them. Okay. Back to public comment. By the way, there's one line I don't have, and I never got a request from the 3 wise women that's in this budget. Just saying. 3 weeks ago. Tomorrow morning, yes, tomorrow morning, because we're not gonna start working on this budget until March 2nd, but we have to present to the Board of Finance right after that. I'd say, and then before I give it to the Board of Finance, so sometime next few days. Right now, that's fine. Excuse me, Rob?
Oh, the hayfield.
Oh,
Yes.
yep.
Thank
Right,
you.
that's all right, and I appreciate that. All right, so before we go to public comment, you at Farm. Boy, thanks for that. I forgot to write it down over here. So I want to tell you a quick story about you at Farm. So we have a hayfield agreement. Do you know we have a hayfield
Yeah.
agreement? So It's the field behind Bonapetito, and there's 3 fields farther
Gary?
down. Huh?
Does Gary hay it?
No, Ron
No,
Lewis
Ron
does.
Lewis.
And so I go through a little bit of the historical story here. So UF Farm was owned by the Mystic Seaport, sold to the town of North Stonington. And they, on the Mystic Seaport, I think the first few years of North Stonington, Huck Perkins used to hay the field. It went out to an RFP when Nick Mullane was the first selectman, and Ron Lewis won the bid for $501. I'm not sure what Huck Perkins, I assumed he probably bid 500, but Ron Lewis has had the hayfield now since 2012 or 2013. In 2020, previous first selectman decided to extend him without going to an RFP. Myself and Nita McKee were also selectmen at the time, and we were doing our full-time jobs, you know how that is. And then we come to meetings and we were told, okay, we're going to extend him, which we did for 5 years. And there's things that he has to do. He has to fertilize. He has to push back the any growth that comes into the field from the wooded areas and so on. And he keeps the hay. So he gives us the money to maintain the field. He keeps the hay. About a little over a year ago, Melissa, who's right on top of things, saw that there was no payment made. So she called and said, hey, there's no payment. Now, she doesn't even know who Ron is, but she saw there was a line empty in her books. And he said, that's funny, we paid that 3 months ago. Well, at the time, Ed Harrisinowitz was the chairman of the farm committee, and he retired. And there was no chair, and 2 other people that retired, left the board. And unfortunately, Nick and Kate had passed, and the board was in flux. There was only 3 people on it: Tim Chokas, Bob Wood, and Rick Wood, and Bob Dunn. The 3 people. So they weren't really meeting. There was no chairman, and apparently this check came in and sat in the Hewitt Farm mailbox for 3 months. So no one knew it was there. So that's where she found it. So we put the check through. Went through sometime, I think, in January of last year. Come this January, Melissa called and said, hey, we'll have your check from your farm. We're going to bring it in. Well, then came down and dropped off the check almost within a couple of days. So now the check's in. In the meantime, Tim Chokas had been named chairman. We have 3 other people on the new farm committee. Now we're up to 6, and they're having regular meetings, and they want to put an RFP out on this hayfield agreement.
Are we past the 5-year
Yes,
extension? Okay.
but Melissa wouldn't have known that. She just wanted to know where the check was.
Yep.
Ron came with the check, and Ron felt by us asking for the check, him bringing the check, we accepted the check and we cashed the check, then we constituted a contract. Okay, that's what he said. So we should have for 2026. There's some question of whether when you pay in 2026, the beginning of 26, are you actually paying for 25
Yeah, I was
or are you
just gonna
paying for
say.
26? We went back and looked at every payment, and bookkeeping was not great back in 2012, 13, 14, 15. We see checks that there's holes where checks aren't. There's checks are not. You can't tell what year they're for. They're not. You know, they came in. We got checks that came in November, December, January, February, and it's tough to tell what did the check go for the previous year or the next year. So because we put the RFP out and it was due today was the opening, I made a decision. I really should have come to you guys and say, hey, I want to make this decision, but this all came about this past week when Ron Lewis visited with me, and Gary Neal's involved, and Huck Perkins is involved, and Reggie Lewis is involved, and anybody that might want to bid on the hayfield. So I made a decision. We're gonna table the RFP for now. I want to talk to you guys about it. My suggestion would be to move it to the fall and just start with a 10-year agreement starting in the fall for 2027 to 2037. A 10-year agreement. We'll put the RFP in the fall, let people come in with the bids then. And any bids that came in today, we didn't open any of them. We're just going to give them back because it wouldn't be fair to open a bid and say, oh, what was someone going to bid? We can use that information down the road. We just gave the bids back. I think we got 2 bids came in. So not everyone was happy with the decision to table it today, but I thought with all this cloudiness and the fact that I didn't want to get involved with attorneys, and my attorney said that since you took the money, I should be, I said, there's enough on my plate. There's enough irons in the fire right now between the budget, the library, and everything else that's going on. We didn't need one more thing to worry about. So I wanted to say to you, my suggestion would be to move this RFP to the fall. and then have a really strict guideline on this is what RP requires. This is when the check is due. Make sure the check's always due, whether it be January 5th or January, whatever the date is, and stick by those rules versus we've had 4 different first selectmen since it started. And I think not everyone kept books the same. We've had 3 different bookkeepers. So my feeling is move this to the fall, let extend Ron and come with an extension contract that he has to sign for the 2026. Extend them for that, have them sign it, and then move forward with the 2027 in the fall, starting after, be paid by whatever date we say, January 5th. That's for the year 2027 and continues to 2037. That's my opinion.
Is there a reason to do it for a full 10 years?
Well, we were doing it for 5, but I'll tell you why the 10 makes sense. Especially if we get a bid for 10 years, that means that kind of money is going to be coming in. And I think it's going to be quite a bit higher than $501. But the thing is, you put a lot of money, you'll do a lot of fertilizing, a lot of prepping, a lot of soil testing. And most farmers that do haying don't want to do that and then lose the contract. So I really think what might have happened in 2020 is Ron came into Mike, because that agreement was changed in May of 2020 for 2021. Mike comes and says, hey, before I put any money into this in the fall, can I get an extension? Because why do I want to put all my money in this and then you give it to somebody else? So I think that's why he got extended when he did. So I think that's why you want the longevity, because they really take ownership of the field. There's a lot to it. And through Yukon and the soil testing has to be done and so on. And that's supposed to be part of the presentation back to the selectmen, actually, to say this is what we've done in the previous year. So that's why it would be 10 years. And Hewitt Farm actually is the one that came up with the 10-year agreement. They're the ones that thought that was a good idea to do. Plus, you're not dealing with it every 5 years. So
My question to that would be, is the fall going to give the farmers enough time for the spring? Because you just said they fertilize in the fall. Should we put it for midsummer so then they can be prepared to start their testing, be able to fertilize in the fall?
Whoever has it now is going to have it through December of 2026. So the new the new farm is not going to be able to do it into those fields anyway.
To them.
I'm just trying to set it up for the next spring. So with Ron having it right now, we extend it to 2026. He has it to December 31st, 2026.
Okay.
He's going to be doing all that work in the fall. When someone gets it in the spring, they're going to be doing their own work come the spring. That's one reason. But, and they know ahead of time. So we do this in, say, September or October, they know starting January 1st, that's their field.
All right.
And we would expect payment, say, January 5th or January 10th, something like that. And we know that that's when you have to pay. And you pay for the year that's coming up. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Agree with that?
I'm fine.
Again,
I'm
I
fine
should
with
have, in hindsight, I should have come to you to have you help me make the decision ahead of time, but it was like, Ron's in my office last Thursday, the opening was today, we didn't have any meetings. I can't just call you
Yeah.
because I'm in violation of FOI if I just call you and say, hey, can we make this decision?
Yep.
So, all right, so I'm gonna let Suzanne, who might be online, is Suzanne online? She was earlier, I think.
I don't think so now.
Okay, so anyway, I'll tell her tomorrow that we've all agreed to that. So do we want to vote on that? Yeah, why don't we?
Yeah, so I will. All right, I'll make a motion to extend the 2026 season to Ron Lewis to hay the Hewitt Farm field with an RFP to be held in the fall to have a January 1, 2027 start.
Perfect.
I'll second.
Great. So just to be clear, 2027, 2037, 10-year agreement. And we'll extend on, and I'll have Sue draw up an agreement extension to what we have now that I'll have him
So
sign
what
off on.
happens, because so not being a farmer and understanding that world, what if midway or a couple of years in, that 10-year person that wins the RFP decides not interested anymore in haying that field?
Typically you would probably sublet it to another farmer, probably.
Okay.
I'm guessing I think, to be honest with you, I think they're doing well on those 4 fields for what the town's getting as far as the amount of hay they're getting. I think they'll do well on
Okay.
it. And we'll know when we get the new RFP, because if we have bids that are much higher than $501, we're gonna know that, yeah, there's money to be made
Okay.
here. Okay,
All right.
all right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'll let Suzanne know that tomorrow. Thank you for that. Almost went right over it. Any other public comment? None? Next meeting. So we have a meeting tomorrow night. We'll probably have some sort of a meeting on Thursday, but I'll call you. We're gonna do a Zoom only meeting on Thursday. Do you have a preference? What's a good time for you, Nicole?
So, a Zoom only meeting on
Just a call,
Thursday.
just a call for the town meeting.
I'm
So doing
fairly,
2, 12, 1, 2.
um,
Let's do when Jen's still in work. She works 10 to 2, so I can get it out.
John, do you have a
I'm looking
preference?
right
Can we do it
now.
more in the morning
Yep.
or no?
Yeah, we can. Let's look at my schedule.
10? Is that too early?
Yeah, I mean, I can do it. I'm gonna be on the road, but I can do it then.
So that's on the 19th, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I can do pretty much any time. I'll work around you guys. So do you
Is
want to
10
say,
okay for you, John?
Yes.
would 11 be better or 12 be better?
No, 10's fine.
10
All right,
is
so 10
better
o'clock.
for
So
me.
I'll just let Jen know because we'll do a Zoom meeting for that 10 o'clock. We'll send you an email with the link and that'll go out to the public. So anybody can sit in that meeting if they want to. And what we're going to do is call for the town meeting, but I can't do that until the Board of Finance gets done with what they're doing tomorrow evening as far as the library and we already sent it to the library. We're going to get an answer from them where they're going to send it back to us. And we just voted to send the America 250 to them. So we're going to get that back from them tomorrow evening. Okay. Yeah, the town meeting thing I gave you tonight was just if everything was going to be on it, so I could subtract. So there's nothing else. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned at 8:42. Thank you.